you guys like my music?
It really did.
Love the music.
Nice.
You're kind of jamming right
It was
there.
good. Yeah.
Just starting to vibe into
Yes,
it. Yeah.
yes, and then it just got so.
A little head bob. Yeah.
Yeah, get you waking up. But well, Molly was about half asleep a minute ago. Or you said
Now,
relax.
listen, Leslie.
I'm
I was
sorry.
Before.
I'm-
Now
okay,
we're here.
now-
Everything's fine.
Now it's all
No,
good.
We're ready for you.
Oh, I'm so excited you guys are here. Leslie's Lowdown on Life, and I have some of the coolest people I've ever met in my entire life. This feels so surreal to me, by the way, to be sitting here, and then you guys are over there.
Same here.
Yeah,
I mean, just all the years. Cool.
It's so cool because we go so far back. I mean, many, many years. And we none of
Decades.
us have aged. I'm so
Well,
proud of
right.
us.
no.
I'm so
Leslie.
proud of us.
Some of us have grown, though. We've
We don't want
grown.
to talk about that either. We don't talk about that. Well, let me introduce you to these incredible people, and I'm sure you know them anyway. The great Dave Sposito, the beautiful Molly Allen, and
Oh.
the incredible Ken Hopkins.
Hello.
Yes, Dave, Ken, and Molly. Now Dave and Molly, because Ken decided he's going to just, finally sit back and do what the rest of us would really like to, but
I
can't
know.
afford to.
I slid,
Yeah.
I slid
Exactly.
right into a retirement. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I'm
so
not sure if
awesome.
I can afford it, but
Oh, you make it work.
the only thing I look on my phone is the payment dates, and that's the only thing. Hey, we get paid next week. That's great.
Isn't that just life
Yeah,
in general?
exactly.
It's like, oh my gosh, payday is 2 days away. I can make it. I'm so excited you guys are here because I just want to talk about you guys have had the coolest career. Honestly, like the longest running, most popular, most beloved radio show in Spokane. You guys can't go anywhere. I can't even go anywhere without somebody saying something about you and how much you've done. I mean, I feel like we've all kind of grown up with you. And there are just so many moments over the years. I thought it'd be really cool to just kind of take a look back and then take a look forward. Because 30 years, right? Over 30 years together?
We were Ken and I were together for 32 in our second form, and then Molly was 26, I think. Yeah,
Right.
So we had about 100 years of our show.
Collective.
Yeah.
All those things
Collective.
you just listed, that sounded like great job security.
It did.
Now,
it did
Molly,
sound
now.
like
It did.
I was saying it sounds like it.
It sounds like it.
But when you list it off, it's like, hey, yeah, we did do all those
You
things.
did all
Yeah.
those
Yes.
amazing things. But so the Breakfast Boys, but you guys weren't the original Breakfast Boys. So I want to hear about that. And then I want to know about when you decided to bring in that third voice, which was Molly.
Yes.
Us.
Yeah. So
Dave was close to being an original.
yeah, there was
Breakfast Boy.
there was one form of the Breakfast Boys show, and then I came in the second form. I was here, then went to Texas, then came back here,
back.
and then that's kind of the second version. That was Jim Arnold, who we worked with for years.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then, so Jim and I did the show for a couple of years, and then I left to go to Colorado.
That was right after Ken was named PD. Dave said, "I'm getting the hell
He
out
said,
of
Well,
I'm
here."
done.
now there were other circumstances.
I heard about that.
There were.
I wasn't going
were.
to say anything.
Yeah, there were.
And then, kind of bounced around all over. And then when I came back in 92, and I remember actually talking to Jim. He was at another radio station at the time, and I said, is it okay if we, use the Breakfast Boys thing? And he said, go ahead and go for it. We were cool. And so then that's when that started. And then there was another person that I was with, and he departed. He was a very nice guy.
Right. It was kind of a temporary.
Yes.
As we look back.
Holding place.
Yeah.
And then Ken was the program director, and he says,
was.
well, I'll fill in until we get somebody.
Which was really the plan.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's
And
like,
then-
I know I can do this for a little bit.
And then he
we'll
spent
fig-
32 years
Then we'll
filming.
figure out what we're going to do. Yeah.
Still looking for that person. I don't know.
Never could find.
Do a talent search. Find somebody.
And then Molly, we were doing when we had started Christmas Wish I think we'd been on for 2.5 years, and we wanted to kind of do our own Christmas sort of thing.
Right.
So we were doing that for a few years, and then during Christmas Wish we needed help, because there was lots going on, and then that's when
Deliveries
Molly helped out, and then she stayed.
Yep. Our friend Diana was in promotions, and my mom had done a grease thing with the Breakfast Boys. And I distinctly remember we were living in LA.
Careful.
And I remember my mom talking to this Diana person who I did not know at the time, and I heard things like, "I don't want those DJs talking a lot before the movie. I don't care who they are. The Breakfast what? I don't care who they are."
Breakfast Club.
Are they are little boys? What is boys?
What's happening?
Are they eating during the show?
So she was doing it was a fundraiser, a grease thing, and then they brought people in, right? And then it was for the summer theater. But then you guys were hosting it. And I also remember because somebody was asking for comps. Absolutely not. No comps. No comps. I don't care how they do it. So then I hear that this is a person I know as Diana. But then when I was up here and I wanted to stay, she had become friendly with her. She introduced me to these guys. And I brought my headshot the first time for my interview. And I was like, "Here's my headshot."
It was
and
a
they
nice
said,
headshot.
You are aware it's radio.
Yeah.
Right?
But you came from LA, so I get that.
Yeah, and it was it just to answer phones, and it was just for 2 weeks, and then they had a producer who 2 days after I got there imploded and like exited,
Yeah.
Right.
and then they had me come back.
One thing led to another. Yada yada yada. Dave
Yeah,
We
Get
get
Ginamala.
fired.
Well, no, there was some other stuff in there.
A few years in between.
Yes.
No, it was funny because
Decade.
Yeah.
Then fired.
But what you know about somebody is only like me overhearing these Breakfast Boys, and then to realize that it became my whole career, my whole life. It's just weird to look back on it. Just that they happen to, know the right people.
Transition into
Yeah,
that.
it's just crazy.
It is kind of crazy how that chance meeting with your mom and Diana.
Yeah. Leads to.
And
then
working
leads
in
to.
promotions. Did you work in promotions? And you were just answering the phone.
I was answering.
Yeah.
I became
Okay.
their producer. That's what they said. "You want to be our producer?" And I said, "I don't have any money." And they said, "No, that's not what it is." I was
you
used to
don't.
Hollywood.
You don't have to back us.
You don't have to pay to do it.
I said, "I don't know what that means." So anyway,
Oh, okay. So you guys have done life together, like good times, bad times,
Everything.
everything. in
Yeah.
between. You've actually been together longer than some marriages.
all 3 of my marriages combined.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
3 marriages, Leslie. I mean, that's a
Wait a
lot,
minute.
isn't
What,
it?
how many was that,
Don't
30?
we all agree
Yeah.
that
And then
is a
Dave,
lot?
you.
That's right. He's tied. He's tied.
He's and then there's Ken.
If we
Yeah.
could calculate the number of hours we've spent together, I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, they always talk about the 10,000 hours together, before where we were into the 20,000 range, and that's a lot of time.
That's
spent.
crazy. Yeah.
And as to your point about the different life changes, yes, multiple divorces for Molly, but we also we had family members that passed away. We had
Right.
Ken's accident,
Right.
coming up on 10 years.
A
So
lot of life
That's been
changing.
10 years?
It
Yeah.
is,
July will be
coming up.
10,
It'll be 10, yeah.
Wow.
A decade.
so
I
Yeah.
feel like that was yesterday. So many of these things, feel like they were just yesterday. Not all of your divorces, but
Well,
I mean, I've
I
had
have
one
not
too.
been divorced
so.
in over 8 years. I'll have you know.
Hey.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe it was over 8 years.
that's an adult record for you, right?
Ever since I started getting married.
I was going to say
Every day is a new record.
And it's only because I'm not married now.
Being married's hard.
It is
What's
hard.
the secret, Ken?
Yeah,
Because you and
Ken.
Trish have been married
The
forever.
secret.
I have to tell you one secret is I compartmentalize a lot of my life. I think that I never brought really a lot of problems home. You just kind of shut the door going each way. But I didn't realize how much emotion was involved in radio until the summer. And wow, there was a lot of thoughts about radio. Me and my wife had a lot of chats about radio. And, obviously big things happen, but you just try to, you try to make it through.
When you had your accident, there were people who were coming that he'd been working with for years came to the hospital, and his wife's like, "I don't know this person. No, they're not.
Yeah.
They can't come
Yeah.
see her," because he kept it so separate. Obviously, we have a
Right.
relationship with Trish and the kids. We all know
Yeah.
each other's
Right.
people. But yeah, it was very separate, and so that was
So
surprising.
that would be just one. But it is, everybody says, "Oh, you've been married forever, and it's been a golden path. Most of it has, but you got to make it through some rough stuff in there.
Sure.
I was going to say marriage is
You have
hard.
you have to defy the odds a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, if it gets hard, I just quit.
When the going gets rough, Molly gets going.
I still haven't mastered the art of getting money out of the deal. Though. All the other women
Yeah.
I know, they get money. What is this
Yes,
getting
I
money?
don't I don't know. I don't know.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
You don't get any money. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know how that
no.
works. Perfectly nice people stayed friends, all of them, but just
Well,
didn't
that's good for you.
make any money on the deal. Come on.
I'm still really good friends with my first wife.
Yeah.
See what I did?
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
She's going to be happy to hear that.
She'll be very happy. Yeah.
What do you think the biggest challenges were for your partners throughout your career? What do you think the hardest thing is for them?
Oh, our partners?
Yeah,
The people on the other
Yeah,
side?
your people. You said you compartmentalize really well. That can be
Right.
difficult to do.
Yeah.
And I think just being a public figure as
Right.
much as you can on radio is a little different I mean, our whole job is just out there for everybody to hear.
Right.
And good days, bad days, everything.
Well, you had so much more you were our program director and boss. That comes with a different set of things than being on the air. Like for me, I would say one of my husbands don't ask which one.
I mean,
Don't ask
I'm
which
trying
one.
to
Right.
do the math.
He
here.
didn't like going to any of the events. And that was hard. Well, my friend Mary benefited greatly from that. But that was back when you MC all these events, you do this stuff. And there was this period of time where I was doing these a lot. And it always felt like I was kind of left on my own. He would never accompany me and make sure I got home okay and make sure I was doing all right during those things because it's a lot of work.
It's a comfort level for them too.
And he never listened to the show either. He said it felt like he was stalking. And I think he listens to our podcast now, though, which is ironic. But he was like, he listened to the oldies station. Serious. Like, what?
You're like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
listen to me.
But I don't think that had anything to do with our divorce. But anyway, I don't know that it's played a big part in relationships. Has it in yours?
I think the hours, and I always, when we talk to, Kalai and Sam and, people that work early morning hours in television, 100%, that's a way tougher deal, the early morning TV. But early morning radio is tough too. I mean, you're never really, you just never have the energy that you should. And we always joke around our phrases, Fridays are hard. You get to the end of the week and you're just spent. And then that's supposed to be the quality family time. And sometimes you're spent. And then you get the one good day Saturday. And then Sunday, it's like, well, I got to be up early, got to start the routine all over again. And that's over time. That's a tough deal.
It is tough. And the morning hours are really, really hard after doing that for
You've done
9
everything,
years.
right?
Yeah,
You've
I've
done every
all of it.
different
shift.
So it is really hard. And also, people think you just go in and talk, right? Whether it be radio or TV. Oh, somebody just hands you something and you just talk away. That's not the case. There's a lot of preparation work that goes along with it. And then it's mentally taxing and emotionally because you're kind of putting it all out there. Right. And I say that because you guys really have lived your lives on air. People know you. They really know you because you are exactly who you are on the air. Yeah. But that also takes a lot out of you. So when you're done, it's like you almost need to go into I tend to go into a little shell and I just need to mentally get myself back together again.
And you run out of words to say. You're just I just don't want to talk anymore. Yeah. I mean, I'll listen, but I just talking is you're tired.
You need input. It's so much output, and it's why TV or something. And Dave and I joke we like to go to the casino. We do, but it is that time where you're not talking. You just get to key out And hopefully it goes well, but it is kind of just that checkout time. And I will say the working mornings, the greatest thing was going back to mornings when my son was young because then his dad had to get him up for school. That was the greatest thing ever. But I think it's hard on the spouse who's home because they're always that school early morning thing. And that's a rough time, for the kids. It's a situation, so.
Yeah.
No doubt. I remember the very first thing when I kind of filled in and started mornings, Dave said, you will cherish your weekends like never before, just because of the sleep schedule. And that was I mean, after a month, it was still like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And it just becomes what it is.
Because
And
you
back in-
would get there early, right? What time?
Back in the
Yeah.
in the days that Ken's referencing, those early days was, I was there like 4:30, and then we would do. It was just the two of us. We didn't
Right.
we didn't have a producer or anything. I remember when we got an intern. I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. But you get done with the show, and then you would do the promos for the show. Then you would get the cut up the different segments for the warm up show, and this was all done on like a reel to reel.
Right,
Tape
before-
stuff. So it was
Yeah.
very time consuming.
For the
Slicing the tape,
digital,
yeah.
And then back then it was all about, okay, we got to have a couple of bits for the next day. And those would be recorded in a production studio that would take an hour or two. It would air once or twice the next morning, and that was it. So there were a lot of times I remember, being there super early in the morning, going that whole day, and then picking kids up from school at 2:30, 3
Yes.
o'clock. And then you are spent.
You're
I mean,
toast.
that is a full day.
And then you try to acclimate on the weekends so you live
Yeah.
somewhat of a normal life, but you're basically exhausted all the time.
I went from going to bed at 4 a.m. to getting up at 4 a.m. because I was
Yeah.
waiting tables, and I was used to being waiting tables, and then you go out and have drinks afterwards, and that was my life. And the switch for me, I gained, I think, 15 pounds, and then I would sleep I was exhausted. It took me probably a year to get used to it, honestly, maybe even longer. And I would just eat because I was so tired. I would just eat to do that, and then I stopped waiting tables.
Welcome to my world.
And there's always free
fuel
food in there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I would just go back to my little apartment and sleep for
Yeah.
like hours because I could not get used to it. But now it's so normal, and now it doesn't bother me at all.
Get into a
Right.
groove.
I do remember like when we would hang out way back when you were doing the mornings.
Yes.
And it was like there are no Fridays, there are no Sundays.
No.
If we're going to do something, it's going to be Saturday night.
Yes.
That was the only,
Right.
and preferably if we could start around 3:30 or 4.
3:30 hour, old people hours.
Yes.
We're good with that.
Early.
We want to do the
And-
early, discount dinner.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's how you had to do it. And it was
Yeah.
so, that's another thing kind of with the job is you end up with a lot of the media people just because they're the ones that kind of understand. And then so that becomes your social circle,
Yeah.
and that's just
Kind of
how
on the same
how it is.
schedule.
So
Yeah.
it's a little bit different now with the the longevity in the market and different, you run into different people that you connect with and they become your friends and they have totally different schedules. So you kind of adapt to that. But it's a tough deal.
It's a weird life.
I have the benefit of having somebody who was in radio forever. And so there's a shorthand, which is so nice. You talk about ratings or bonuses or PDs or, any of the acronyms, any of that,
Right.
Ken already knows because he was in radio
He gets it.
forever. And so, yeah, and he does not want to be in it now. So that's a perfect thing because he loves that I get attention and all of that. He doesn't bother him, but he also knows the downsides and the back parts of it that are hard.
Right.
And he knows all the players.
All the
Oh, yeah.
You know what I
logistics.
mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
He knows where all the chess players are
Yes.
in the game.
Yep.
And he knows when they're being moved.
Yep.
And he totally gets it when you're
Totally.
like just needing to blow off some steam.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That's good.
Which is so perfect.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have been together for so long and again, lived life together. What are some of the best memories? Well, I mean, you guys have some funny stuff.
Oh my God.
You have some funny stuff. Like, I'm going to go Tom Brokaw. And I mean, you guys all do voices. And Richard Nixon, what's your best voice?
I don't really.
Hey,
yeah.
now.
Molly has all the voices.
My favorite when I knew I was like comfortable and gonna stay was I made an Alanis Morissette. I used to do parody songs, and I did the Dear
Right.
Breakfast Boys song, and it was to the Dear John song, which I thought was just the goofiest song ever. There was that one, and then the Cher one. Can you believe how much work I've had done?
Those broke through.
Yeah,
big
those
time.
broke through for me. That was kind of my first, like, okay, well, this will be the thing that I do. I'll do parody songs.
Let's hear a few bars. Give it to
gosh,
us.
Go ahead, Melanie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hear a few
I
questions.
mean, nobody's putting you on the spot.
Dear Breakfast Boys, I like you a lot. That and then
That was Cher.
no,
Oh no, that was yeah.
and this share has become way overdone. So, but it was like, can you believe how the work I've had done? My lips, my butt, my something, my thighs. That's how I get all the young rocker guys.
Meow.
Meow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Meow. But But that was kind of my signature. Like when that's how it kind of broke through.
I just remember just snippets. I remember Dave flipping over a chess table when he was playing chess with someone.
For the listener.
Just the random things.
Yes.
I remember riding on a trike with St. Patty's Day panties on or something.
I was talking about that the other day,
Yeah.
that we had the Breakfast Boys St. Panties Day. We were so
St.
clever.
Panties Day,
And
yes.
we had made like 300 pair of women's underwear that had our logos
oh my
on
God.
it.
You could never do that now.
You could never do that now.
Some of my biggest laughs, though, were behind the scenes if things got awkward. That's when Hopkins really comes alive.
When it gets weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
yes.
give us a little inside look.
It's hard to even recreate it. You have to be in the moment and it'd be like we're all backstage at something or at a meeting or just somewhere awkward. And that's when we'd have laughs.
I do remember we hosted, and this sounds crazy now, but it was a big event at the time.
Yeah.
The arena, Spokane Arena, and it was the Star Theater, what they call it. So it was basically 3/4 of the arena. So it was a big crowd, sold out thing. And what it was a Backstreet Boys concert, but it was on a video. So people went to the arena. Thousands of people went to the arena. This is when the Backstreet Boys were huge. You know, it was a big thing. And people show up and to watch the show on a big screen.
Right.
And we introduced the show, and I remember Ken coming out. And this, I had no idea he was going to do this, but we came out and he just said, "I don't want to, sound big to anybody, but I was just back screen with the Backstreet Boys." Not backstage, back screen. And I remember, like, and you're kind of nervous, like, okay, we got to talk to all these people. And that hit me like, that was funny. And I wasn't ready for that one. That kind of like was like a punch to the face kind of a thing.
so hard it
Lost
knocked
my
off your headphones.
One of the first memories I have too, I started in December. We took the Christmas break. I come back in January, and it must have been maybe February when NSYNC came through.
Yeah.
It was really
Yeah.
soon after.
Yes.
With a packed thing, and they invited me to come out. They're introducing NSYNC. And so I am like,
This was the real band,
there
though.
for
This
that
was the
one,
real
yes.
people.
Oh,
Yeah.
So this is where they flew over the arena. Like they were like, yes. So I was there. I saw you guys there.
My least favorite thing now, and I know that now because I didn't know that then, but my least favorite thing is being in a situation where I'm introducing the people they really came to see. I'm not good at hyping up the crowd. It's my worst thing, but I didn't know that then. So we go out on stage, and you have 14,000 screaming
And
girls.
it was ear-piercing screams.
Yeah.
And then also I realized the popularity of these guys because I didn't grow up here, so I didn't really get the whole thing. The screaming, I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever witnessed. And they're doing the whole, who's ready for NSYNC? Is it this side? Is it that side? And I'm probably like, is it the middle? Yay! I didn't know what to say, and I thought they did a great job at it, but I never wanted to do that again. But it was exciting. I mean, that electricity was like insane.
I always remember that, and a couple of times you'd always get on stage, and I always thought the sound guy was screwing with you because you would talk, and then like a second later you'd hear your voice, and then you're really bizarre.
Yeah, there's a lot of the sound stuff. I remember we had, this was in the old building with the old school like reel-to-reel recorder and everything, and we had, at the time, this was a big deal, George Carlin, comedian George Carlin, legendary comedian, and he was going to come to town, and we were promoting his show, so we had George Carlin on the air. And because it was just the two of us in the studio, we said, okay, George Carlin's ready to go. We had to finish our song. Song's got to finish playing before we go on the air. And so we put him on hold, and we came back to him, and he's a legend and doesn't want to put up with any crap. So he comes back and says, "That music you're playing is awful. It's so loud I can't hear a blankety thing." And it's like, oh, this isn't going to go well.
I know.
He had settled down a little bit, and then we got him on the air, and then meeting him, he did a show at the Opera House, and so we were there, and that was kind of cool.
So
We got
cool.
But there's been a lot of like famous people or really cool people that we got to meet because of the job.
I was just gonna.
Yeah.
I want to ask, who is the coolest person that you guys have met?
Through the radio, Well, Brandi Carlile. I got to meet Brandi Carlile. I talked about the weather. It was my fault, but yeah,
Right.
she's my
in
hero.
our little studio.
Yeah, and we were talking
down
about that.
there.
She just played on the SNL thing, not Belinda Carlisle, Brandi Carlile.
Brandi Carlile.
But she and we were talking about because it was my Ken, who brought her to the little river. Remember the little?
Oh, yeah.
That, and so they'd play. There were like 15 listeners there, and she's playing with the twins. And now here she is, a Grammy Award winner and stuff. But no, that was for me. That was pretty big. How about you guys? I know who is a Bengals girl. You both go when they talk about the
I
Bengals
didn't-
lady.
Well,
they both
Yes.
Yeah, I need to hear
Susanna
that.
Hoffs. You
Susanna
mentioned her.
Hoffs was beautiful.
They both go. Oh, she had a sweater, fuzzy sweater, and she smelled so good. Am I right?
Oh, she was pretty good. Yeah.
She walked like an Egyptian as well.
There were back in in the early days. There were some musicians that would literally come into the building, and Eddie Money was he was super fun because he loved to hang out with radio people and other people. He was really fun. But I think the coolest person I met, and it wasn't totally radio related, was probably John Travolta. The times that he's been in town.
that in there.
I remember the first time that I met him. That's Molly's uncle, and he'd come into town, and that was, I was nervous before, but he's one of those guys that instantly puts you at ease. We talk about how he's very good at being famous
So
or a
it
celebrity.
runs in the family.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom too.
Yeah. So,
Well, and you met Kelly when you met Kelly Preston. That was
Kelly Preston, and I can say this, but she took my breath away. I mean, that was one of the most.
I remember you saying that. We
Wow.
were at,
Yeah.
it was some party, some Super Bowl party or something like that. And you said, Kelly literally
Yeah.
took my breath away.
I came around a corner, and I knew she was going to be there. And then the first time I saw her, I was, oh my God, that's really her. And it's like, holy smokes.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was also as great as John is to,
Yes.
fans that you get to meet the first time. She was so perfect. She was just so nice, and that was.
And they love the show.
cool.
They all both have been on the show. Had been on the show
Quite a few times.
Quite a bit.
The last time we had to have them at the Civic Theater because we couldn't have them in the studio because of COVID. So he and Ella, his daughter, came on, my cousin, and we did it at the Civic Theater out in the
Oh, that's
lobby.
cool.
Little
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
show there.
How about you, Ken? Who did you like meeting?
In cleaning up my office, I'm finding a bunch of pictures. I forgot I met Lenny Kravitz once.
Oh,
I
my
doubt
gosh.
he remembers. And I have a picture with Janet Jackson, which I almost
Wow.
But it was at the Tacoma Dome, and I was the one Spokane guy that got shoved in there with a bunch of Seattle
Yeah.
guys. So
Yeah.
I kind of looked like the odd man out, but that was very quick. It got Howard Jones. If you remember
yeah.
Howard Jones from way back in the 80s, he came in, brought a keyboard, and just played all of his songs. That was the afternoon show back.
And
way back in
that
the
was
day.
before I had come back, and boy, I heard about that. That was event radio.
It was really just
Everybody was talking about that.
awesome.
Who is the one
Really
that sang
cool.
really loud in your studio? Well, I mean,
That
in your
was Andy
office.
Grammer.
Andy Grammer, yes.
And at the time, he it wasn't Had a Bad Day. That wasn't Andy Grammer, but he
No,
had
that was Powder.
Yeah, the other
Daniel
song,
Powder,
yeah, that became the American Idol.
Yeah.
And at the time, you don't realize when a guy sits down and just sings full volume.
Yeah.
And you're the only other person there.
Awkward.
It's-
Oh my
yeah.
God, I know. But it was like, he's such a cool guy. in
Did
his
you
head.
just sit and stare in his eyes?
I did. It was kind of awkward. I peered. Yeah. It's like being in an elevator. It's odd. If you look away, then they know you're looking away. Yeah.
We had Casey and the Sunshine Band guy. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Rick Springfield was very nice.
Yes.
The Village people, I got to meet them out at the casino. Take a picture with them when they were here, and then Chicago with all their many horns. That was kind of like it's through radio, but because of the Northern Quest, and then those people. Well,
Yeah. I got to meet Nickelback. Yeah, I was
I love
rocking with
She
Nickelback.
that.
loves Nickelback.
Hey, me and Chad Kroger, we were right there.
What the? Do you like Nickelback?
I'm kind of in between. There was a time when they just put out
The
hits.
correct answer is yes, Ken. Just it's her show.
I have yet to find anybody who says, I like, and I'm like, I like Nickelback.
I never was a negative Nickelback, but
Molly's giving me
He
a look.
defended them more than no, he did, and they have a very good reputation. But on her first podcast, I was on with Sarah Owsley and Dana Haynes, and she does this big presentation. She's going to make this big statement. It's going to define our friendships, and she drops the Nickelback bomb, thinking we were all going to go, wait up, and we all went,
Yeah. And I was like, get out.
We referenced you on our show this morning because they're
Love your
doing a
show.
tour with Creed.
Oh.
Which is kind of
Are
like
they coming to Spokane?
not yet, but
Okay.
they're forming a tour, and that's going to be Upper Midwest to start. And
Can
then,
you guys make a plea
Yeah, I
and then
can
get me
see
back
that.
stage
Dave
tickets?
said I have to go with you. He goes, you and Leslie need to go together, and you need to be her friend and go.
Yes, Molly. That's what good friends do.
what I
I
said.
said, I said, I love you, her, but I'm not doing that. I said, she's beautiful inside and out, and it's a hard no.
It's a hard no.
I think that's exactly what she
that's
said.
where we draw the line right there.
Yeah.
What were some of the like just trying we have to get Nickelback here. That's all that's on my mind. So can we get to work on that? But what have been some of the hardest moments through? Because I know we get the major ups and we get some downs too. So what have been some of the I would call I say hard moments, but teachable or learning moments where it kind of redefined everything or kind of like made you look at things differently?
Well, I know the hard moments we had. Ken and I lost parents, and so I remember that was the toughest deal when, after my mom had passed away and I came back. I'd been off the air for a while, and that was, that was real emotion. And then when Ken had his accident, and
that was brutal.
that was a tough deal because we knew there was a Monday night. And I got the call from Trish that he was in the hospital, but you don't ever think it's going to be
Bad.
that bad. And the next day, well, this is happening and this is happening, and I remember Molly and I were in a different radio studio. This was the Wednesday. It was a Wednesday morning after the show, and then that's when we heard that he was going to be paralyzed, and that. I'll never forget that moment, even though we weren't actually on the air at that time. But.
And I don't even remember, I have no clue of that moment other than just stories. And I do remember my wife saying how mad Molly was because you just said, no way, they can't be saying that already. And,
I was.
that emotion. And
Yeah, it seemed like they called it awfully early. That was the shock. It was like, and I think we went on, we did 2 more shows and we didn't say anything. And then we had a planned week off.
Correct.
So then we had that whole week. And I went to see him in the hospital. He goes, hey, Molly Allen, I don't know what I did, but I think it was bad. But coming back on the air and reading the letter from Ken, what he wanted us to say, that was the hardest for sure. And we've all had deaths from animals to parents and family members and all of that. And divorces are hard to talk about too. We joke about them now, but they're hard in the moment. But that was by far the hardest morning of.
The fact that you guys talk about those things on air is what I think makes you so real and so approachable, because everybody out there is going, I've been through that too, or I've gone through that. And, talking about your accident, Ken, I remember that whole time. And it makes me emotional now when I think about it, because I remember when you guys read the letter and then just kind of hearing about everything. What I love, and I think we've all said it before, is how amazing this community is, because I know that this community just rose up and they were right there.
We had
embraced
Yes.
us.
We had
Yes.
arms around us.
Yes.
It's still what it makes me emotional when just a random person comes up and says, I prayed for you, or I thought of you, or I got a Dutch Bros on the fundraising day. It's like, my goodness, it is the connection of this communities. And just through being in the disability world, the people I've met, the families, it's just unbelievable. the connections that makes.
And at the time, we had a lot of support within the company, a lot of help. And I remember people coming from their stations, dropping their station, handing that off to help program this station, because nobody realized how much Ken was doing until he wasn't there to do it. It was all hands on deck. Everybody pitched in, and it was that feeling of like, okay, because I think for us, we were so emotional about it. Everybody else was a little more separated so they could focus on getting his stuff done. But we didn't realize how much he had been shielding us from, how much stuff that he probably had been, dealing with. And then, here we are complaining about having to be emotional. Well, now he's got to deal with this, where it's almost selfish and silly to think how hard it was for us to be on the radio talking about it when he's got the job of dealing with it.
Right. I do remember, though, I don't remember a whole lot about Sacred Heart, but when I went to St. Luke's, I was a little more with it and rehabbing. I can remember every Friday thinking, oh, those guys get the weekend off. I'm glad. And they're like, I remember like Dave was going to a Seahawk game. Okay, they get Monday off, and all right. So I felt a tremendous amount of guilt in just like, I'm just laying here and I'm no help at all.
Really? You felt that way?
A little bit of that coming in.
That was the furthest thing from anybody's mind. We did have some good people around us, though, that helped us. And then,
oh my goodness,
I do remember when I saved the company $150,000. There was there was multiple meetings about how they were going to retrofit everything, and I said, "How about and just hear me out? Talk to the St. Luke's people and see what they think about our studio." It was one cut of a cabinet, and that was it. And he was
kind of made it better,
It was crazy. But people, I think, around it needed a job about it. I do think this. I think they felt helpless, and they were like, okay, here's what I can focus on. I'm going to make this studio the greatest studio ever for this man because I have no control over everything else, where we were just like we want to keep a show going, so he has a show to come back to. That was our job. And also, don't overthink this. Like, But
I understand that. I remember just the unbelievable, overwhelming amount of information, and we're in St. Luke's and not knowing do I need a power chair and what all equipment do I need, and not knowing anything. And
I'll never forget that first when I was there when they were doing the explaining and having him do what they called the transfer for the first time, and going from a bed to a chair, and
kind of hopping.
There was like a wooden
slide board,
and watching that, and I remember, I almost lost it watching that because I thought he's gonna do this multiple times a day, and it took. In my head, it seemed like a half hour. It was realistically, it was probably 12 to 15 minutes, and
at that time it took a long time, just
the struggle and the turning and all that, and now it's. Nothing's effortless, but you can do it in seconds.
And it's funny. I grade myself. If somebody else is in the room, every time I transfer, I grade myself. That was a B-. Once in a while, I nail it, and that's an A. But I've had a couple of D's in there where half my butt is on there, and I make it. But
so many things that we don't think about, and this was just a freak accident.
Just as freak as it could be, bicycle accident, coming into my own neighborhood, just crazy.
The other thing they taught us was, and Dave and I are kind of terrified, if he falls out of his chair, here's how you're going to get him back in. And we had to go to St. Luke's and learn how to do that. And then also, what was the condition when you were first back at work? We had to make sure if you passed out or something, and you had to lean back every.
You had to give your
half an hour
butt a rest or something.
Here's what the condition is. Autonomic dysreflexia.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
So I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Yes. So I thought it was something along those lines, but I couldn't get it completely.
They call that AD, and they preach that. Like, let's say I can't feel below my waist or my chest. If I twisted my ankle or something and didn't know it, I'd probably get a amazing headache, and then you look around and say, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to go to the bathroom. And it's like, oh, my bladder is screaming at me.
But he would have to lay back in his power chair a couple times a morning to
Right.
get his thing going. But there were a couple times
Yeah,
where
kind of a tilt
he looked a little
back.
drifty, and we'd be in the middle of a thing, and I'm looking at Dave, and I was like, "Do we call it? Do we
do it?
throw?
Do we
throw the flag?
Yeah.
Is this it?"
I can remember the very first day coming back.
I was just
and
going to say, when was it? I didn't feel like you weren't gone that long.
It was the
November.
first November after Halloween, I remember. And the thing that hit me is I just couldn't, I would run out of breath.
Right.
I couldn't talk that long like
Yeah.
I used to. And I'm more used to it now, but I can remember just talking and raising my hand saying, I got to take a breath.
Yeah.
Which is a little different. But
Yeah, but you were on the phone with us a few
Yeah.
times, and
There
then
was,
back in.
yeah.
But it's pretty remarkable though, just like what you were able to do
It
and come
is.
back.
it's.
And then we loaded everything back on his plate and said, "We're out. All this crap we've been dealing with. Here you go. We didn't like it."
You're back.
Hey, I did have support in you guys and the staff we had at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of trickled back into semi-normal, but yeah, it does. It does take a little. Just disability alone is almost a full-time job.
Yeah.
It is. It just you get used to it, but it's like, man, I've got to do a lot.
There's also been different changes. I mean, you had to go deal with it too with the COVID. You know, where you were doing the
my
weather from your
God.
house,
Yeah.
and you know, and a lot of our media friends, same kind of thing. It's like, oh,
Sure.
the dog's running through, kids are going crazy. But we had that similar situation. I think we were off for a couple of mornings, and then I was going into the studio, and then these guys were on, you know, from home, broadcasting from home. And in the early days, it was a crappy little microphone that was built into a wire. It was
Into
ear
our-
headphones.
Into our iPhones.
And that's how we did that for a few weeks, and then, you know, got some better equipment. They had to get their own equipment. It was kind of a bad deal, but that was a whole thing too, because, you know, we're so used to reading off of each other's
Yeah.
body
So
language.
much
and-
Totally
of
different.
working together is
Yeah.
reading
Yeah.
each other's faces and kind of seeing
Yeah.
what's going to, you know, how are they taking this?
Yeah.
And then reacting off of it.
or knowing when to
Yeah.
step in and step out. And the thing was, not only could we not see each other, but there was delays. You know, there was half a second delay or whatever that is, and that was really kind of clunky. We'd both start sentences at the same time, and then two other people. It was just kind of that. So that was a very clunky process for months and months and months, and then. You know, they had all kinds of different. Well, one person can come back, and then we'll put up a shower curtain between. It was like crazy stuff.
I forgot about the shower curtain.
It was, just, you know,
Just off and on. It seemed
And we were
like,
able
yeah.
to, aside from that first few weeks where people literally couldn't hear us through no fault of our own, we sustained great ratings, and we got creative, and we did virtual, you know, martini parties, and we would virtual remotes, and we really did everything we could to make sure that we kept a good product going with
Right.
all the odds against us, and still did our job, got good ratings, and did all of that. I think people wanted our voices in a time of complete uncertainty, and
And, you know, try to rally for the merchants and try to
Yes.
keep everything going.
yeah,
and
restaurants had it really tough.
yeah.
And the whole thing, just try to get behind that.
But talk about not realizing, you know, you didn't. And the anniversary that's coming up pretty soon too. On that Friday when we got sent home on March 13th, you didn't appreciate what you had, which was being in person, being together,
And the
you know.
routine.
It seems like I walk up the same stairs every day and I go in, but man, when we got back, it was like, I will never not appreciate this in-person thing again. We were already,
Yeah.
it was so depressing going down to the basement. Like, I can't have my furnace on. It sounds like a jet engine.
Yeah.
I guess I'll sit here cold. It was awful.
Yeah, there were times when my office doors, you just shut it, and when I went by, I didn't have good feelings. It was like,
Yeah.
well, that's work. I was in there
Yes.
forever yesterday.
Yeah.
It's in my own house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a crazy time. I swear, I
everybody.
feel like I've sort of blocked out some of that. You know,
Yep.
you compartmentalize. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We did live through that. It seems like a bad dream.
Yeah.
It does.
Just a bad dream. Were you jealous because you had to put pants on to go to work and they didn't?
Well, you know, for me personally, I tell this story to everybody. For me, it was not a bad time, other than I couldn't see these guys. But I was still. I need the routine. Like waking up, driving into that was actually good for me. I don't know how I would have handled it, you know, having to do it from home, and then I can't remember the timeline of everything, but it seems like it was just me for like 6 months. And then our producer, she had her own kind of room, and so they allowed that to happen. But there was still nobody else on the whole upper level. And that was actually a nice thing too. You know, we'd have our coffee in the morning and chat and everything, and then make sure that we had, you know, we could connect to these guys and all that kind. And then then there was a stretch where one of you guys could come in and they would rotate.
Right.
And I don't know, Molly has a better memory of when all three of us got to be back together.
It was in time for your birthday.
You know, so June of...
It would have been like early June. Yeah. So we went from March of 2020 to June of 2021.
That's such a long time.
Yeah. I can't remember when I think it was like the April, maybe one or the other. The good thing was when one of us was at home, the delay was less. So it made it like, it was like, okay, if only Ken's at home or only I'm at home, at least it made it a little bit better. But with both of us being remote, that was hard. Yeah. It was really hard.
You just feel like you're stepping on each other.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, wait a second.
Mm-hmm. And the sound quality was never quite right, you know.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of our listeners, you know, kind of gave us a pass. They knew it was a different time for everybody,
right?
You know, and
their routines were totally messed up as well.
I think Molly put it best. Like they needed kind of the reassurance of your voices, and I think that makes a big difference when they can go to their routine and hear their people and know that you guys are living through that right along with them.
Right.
Yeah. I think also the news. I know I was, as soon as I got off the air, had the news on, watching all of that stuff, watching all of it, and I have flashes of it. They were so depressing. Just watching everybody else work remotely and to see how the news people had to adjust and the late night shows and how they had to adjust. And it was, you know, I think people needed a break from that to the news and everything. So we were just a relief in the morning, and we didn't talk about it. I mean, we talked about we just didn't talk about COVID a whole lot. We never mentioned death tolls. We never mentioned we didn't get political about it. We just
more like
move
how
forward.
it's affecting locally or whatever.
Yeah.
That was the hard part, was hearing it all the time. It really was. And, you know, the counts and what city was having the worst time. And oh, that was painful.
But look at us now.
But I was gonna say,
everything's so good
Everything
now.
is
Everything's
fine.
going to be fine.
Every little thing is going to be all right.
It's true.
Before I let you guys go, because I'm not quite ready to yet, I have to ask one question about, did you guys almost get in big trouble because of the Tom Brokaw thing?
Well, there was some trouble. I
think there was pressure.
Yeah, pressure. That's a better.
Yeah. And I didn't even feel like it was on me because it was all Dave's
Dave's idea.
Did you just push the buttons to call and then he did the talking? Is that how that works?
Occasionally, we'd have to do.
I'm Steve. Tom's on hold. Yeah, that's about all I had to do.
Oprah Winfrey. I have Tom Brokaw for Oprah. Like, I want to puke.
So how many people did you actually get through to?
Oh my gosh, it was, you know, big name celebrities. I mean, probably 50 or so, you know. But the thing about that, and this goes like an old radio story, but Ken and I went to a radio convention. We would go to this one every year, and I remember being sort of envious because a lot of the guys that were talking were saying, well, we had so-and-so on the air with us. And we're like, we're in Spokane, Washington. No big name celebrity is ever going to talk to us.
Right.
And then it was also you would exchange phone numbers. Like if you had a celebrity's phone number, you could, hey, I'll give you this number if you give me that, kind of a give and take. So I remember coming back from that convention and I had some phone numbers. So it's like, oh, this would be great. And I remember we called, it was NBC. This is when Connie Chung was working at NBC. And it was August 20th is her birthday. So it was her birthday. So we call as good-natured breakfast boys. Like, hey, we're going to call Connie Chung on her birthday and see if we can talk to her. there's no chance they're going to talk to. So, well, we'll let you know, and blah blah blah. NBC switchboard, very nice people. And then it was about an hour later. I thought, well, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try calling as Tom Brokaw just to see what happens.
See what happens.
And I called the main NBC number in New York, and it's like
switchboard,
easy number, and I just said, this is Tom Brokaw. I'm calling for Connie Chung, and oh yes, Tom, I'll put you right. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to happen.
And it got more nervous when they picked up and sent you through.
And then all of a sudden she picks up the phone. Hi, Tom. And it's go time. This is actually happening. And
what do I do now?
That was like the light bulb moment. That's like, if this works, we're just going to keep doing it, and we're calling everybody.
Yeah.
And it got all the way. I mean, we had called the president, that was the first George Bush. We had Oprah and Jay Leno and every news person. The news people were great because it seemed like they could get a call from Tom Brokaw.
Right.
It's just
That
a very
makes sense.
not out of the ordinary. Katie Couric became a regular on the show. Peter Jennings was a super nice guy.
And didn't President Bush do like an opening for you guys or something like that, or do something for the radio?
That was the thing when we would get these people on, and I would break pretty soon because I didn't want to get in more trouble. But I would just say, hey, I'm not really Tom Brokaw. We're just, we're a couple of yahoos doing a radio show or whatever. Oh, well, that's great, blah, blah, blah. Then most of the people are super cool. And then at the very end, we'd say, hey, I remember asking, Mr. President, yeah? Could you say, hi, this is George Bush, and you're listening to Dave and Ken on the Zoo? And he says, okay. And I have the audio of that.
Oh, my God.
And he'll say, well, it's George Bush, you're listening to Dave and Ken, over and out. Yeah. And everybody, we'd have everybody do like little liners or drops for us, just because Katie Couric did one, Peter Jennings did. Peter Jennings, I remember, we had him on multiple times, and we had a contest one time called the Who Do You Know contest. So we had all of our listeners like, you guys do the work, you get a famous person to call in, and if they mention you, then if you're the most famous celebrity, you get a prize, kind of a thing. So one of our listeners got Peter Jennings to call in. And we had done multiple Brokaw calls to him, so he kind of knew who we were.
Right.
Well, he did a bit. He said he was Bono from U2. And so we hey, we've got Bono on the phone from U2, and Ken and I are like going, oh my gosh, this person's going to win. This is going to happen.
Crazy.
And so we say, hi, well, this is Dave and Ken, and you're on the air, and then it's Peter Jennings talking in a very terrible Irish accent, and I knew right away it was not Bono, and I was thinking somebody's messing with us, and I was so fearful. I had my hand on the button to like get us off the air.
Somebody's gonna.
And finally, he said he was Peter Jennings, and he thought it was hilarious because he got to fool me, and so that was super cool. And then when we had let him know, that he had won the contest. This was right during the New Hampshire primary, political time. So he was actually in New Hampshire when he got the news that he was going to win the contest, and so I was at my house, and the ABC people had given Peter Jennings my home phone number. So he calls me at my house. I'm answering the phone. I'm talking to Peter Jennings at my home.
Wow.
And he was so funny. And I said, well, yes, you're going to win the contest. You were so great. And thanks for being on. He said, well, you little bastard, you sure fooled me. And that was the most endearing time I've ever been called that name.
Yes.
That was super
gosh.
cool. Like everybody was really cool. There were some jerks. Dan Rather was kind of a jerk, and some of them didn't handle the bit as well as others. But that was a great thing for us because it let us be with the big boys,
right.
to get to talk to very famous people.
But then his buddies around the country would have him call and fool people that weren't famous necessarily. And so a lot of times we get to the studio and he's already in there recording for somebody who's on East Coast time. And then we would get to play that one too because it would be funny. but it would make me nervous every time. I would stand outside. I just thought, oh my God, he's doing it again. He's doing it again.
I'm going to get in trouble.
I don't like this.
And then I would always think on those, well, if it goes wrong, that's on their radio.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
Yes.
That's them, not us.
Yep.
The funniest thing is the one who was one of the last ones was the least famous, least important person. It was the guy who was, remember Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire?
Oh, yeah.
That show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aired one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that guy, we get on the air and Dave does his thing, but he was kind of making him look like a jerk because the guy was comparing himself to like a giant star.
Well, he was comparing himself to Tom Brokaw. He said, well, you know
Right.
what it's like, Tom. A lot of
Yeah.
people know who you are. And all this
Right.
guy. And this guy, what was the guy's name?
I can't think of
This
his
is so terrible.
name now.
He ended up suing us.
Yeah. He's why
He
it had
did?
to end,
Yeah.
basically.
Rick Rockwell.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
And we were thinking
memory.
there used to be a comedy club right within 200 yards of our studio, and he was coming there. And so we were going to countersue and do a restraining order against him, like you can't come within 500 yards, and so he wouldn't have been able to perform there. But it ended up, I don't even know if the company paid any money. It wasn't that much money.
No,
but he was
his
suing
attorneys
everybody.
dropped him. That was kind of like he was an idiot. But
Yeah.
Kind of a tool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was the only. It's so funny of all the people. And the other thing he used to do is he would call people and thank them for the birthday baskets that they sent.
Right.
And so that sets up awkwardness for like whoever the star is. They're like, "Oh, you're welcome."
where they would never I would just make up not make up, but I'd find a celebrity assuming that they had a relationship with Tom Brokaw. So I would call that celebrity and say, oh, thank you for delivering this wonderful gift basket.
Yeah.
They never delivered a gift basket, but they thought, maybe
Oh,
my
Tom.
assistant did it or
You're-
something.
You're so welcome.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the flowers.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, so good.
Good. I was hoping they got there on
I remember
time.
we had Regis Philbin on, and that was because I was a big Regis fan. I thought he was great. But it was the night that the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was airing, the first episode. It turned out to be a monster hit, but no one really knew what it was the first time. So I called Regis as Tom Brokaw, and I remember, that was a pretty cool exclusive because it's like Regis talking about, well, I don't know, Tom, it's $1 million, so we'll see what happens if somebody wins the thing or whatever. And it was like that was a big moment for us. But we would have never in Spokane. We don't really get those opportunities. But,
Did you ever call John Travolta as Tom Brokaw?
Oh, no.
no.
All he had to say is, hello, it's Dave. That's right, from Spokane. That was a good get for us, though. Early on when I came on, I had a Rolodex, a thick Rolodex, and I could get stars legitimately because I had just come from that world. And so that was fun because, like...
I remember Mary Lou Henner was fantastic.
And we had, on Fridays, we'd have celebrity people playing the Win Dave's Money thing. But Diana... married to Mike Nichols.
Diane Sawyer.
She was on with us.
Yeah.
But at first I would tell John to pretend he wasn't my uncle because nobody knew. It wasn't until the Star Days that I actually talked about it. And he said, well, are you ashamed of me? I said, no, I want people to get to know me first. I don't want to have it be, John Travolta's niece is on. So we all played it cool.
Right.
And then my mom would be on and we just pretend we didn't really know them. It was kind of fun. It was kind of good until later. But... you got to let the audience get to know you first.
That's kind of true. You make a name for yourself.
Yeah.
That's right.
I was thinking of you that we were talking about famous people because I know you got to interview Jimmy Fallon right
Jimmy
before
Fallon.
he had started the new show, right?
That was really cool.
Yeah.
That was such a cool opportunity. And he was such a nice guy.
Yeah.
He was so nice. And I remember I was the last person to interview him because, we were all sitting there and people would go up and they would do their little interview and, they would get down and walk away and it's in front of everybody.
Oh, boy.
And then I'm the
Right.
last person, which was good. I think it was good because then most people kind of left at that point.
Right.
And so I just got to go up and I just said, oh my gosh, I feel like I know you. And he's like, give me a hug. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then I brought him a magic 8-ball. And I said, this is how we figure out what the weather's going to do. But no, he was super nice and he smelled good. That's what I remember about him.
Yeah.
Oh, and his skin was unbelievably gorgeous. I was like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's we watched him on he opened the Saturday Night Live concert night Friday night. But he came out doing a Blues Brothers thing, full dance thing, dancing like crazy and singing. And then the song ends, and now he's got to talk. And you could tell he's really out of breath. And I thought, he's 50 years old now.
Wow.
But he was like, not only does he have great skin and looks great, but he must be in pretty decent shape.
Yeah.
To
He's
pull that
super
off.
talented.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. Super talented. I was watching him do the cowbell thing, and he's like,
Oh my gosh.
with the drumsticks.
I love that Fred Armisen was playing the drums and several
For
different
Devo and B-52s.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love Fred Armisen. He's really talented
Yeah,
too.
he's super talented. So many of them do everything.
Yes.
They sing, they dance, they act, they're funny. I'm like, some people get all the luck.
Well,
I know.
you got to be a triple threat in this business, Les.
You do.
Some people can just talk.
I need to get a 2 and a 3.
You need to tap dance while you're doing the weather.
I can talk. We got that going for us. Okay, party moments for you guys. You made a transition. Kind of going on a bit of a different path. What do you see coming up, moving forward in this new kind of vein that you're in? And then what do you say to all of your people, all the listeners who have been with you throughout the years, and they just came and followed you in droves?
Yeah.
The second they found out you were back on the air, it was like, we're back home.
That's a huge deal. That was when this thing started. We have a text line, so people can have constant communication. That's the thing, and I know we have the numbers are fantastic, and just the tens of thousands that are listening and that will download the podcast, and that's all wonderful. And I don't take that for granted. That's fantastic, and that's wonderful for our advertisers and everything. But for me, the coolest thing is having between 150 and 300 people, different people, so active during the show that they want to get a quick message into us. It's like, they want to comment on something that we've said. That's the part that, with traditional radio, it can be a passive audience sometimes. They're in their car, they're driving, they're not really, they didn't make a total choice to listen. Our people are making a choice. I mean, they download the Nonstop Local app. They have the app, and they know when we're on. And then if they miss us, they want to download the podcast. That is commitment, and that makes me feel incredible. I mean, that's super cool.
The best thing is when somebody says, I feel like we could be friends. To any of us, like when they're so in agreement. And then I love it when they're just like, nope, Malls, you're wrong. Nope. Nobody should. Everybody gets to wear flip-flops on airplanes. They'll call us on our stuff. They are in on the joke. And that, it's like, I always equate it to a really good TV series when a situation pops up and you already know how all the characters are going to react, so you're pre-laughing at it. And I think we've established that with our audience, that we're such defined characters that you throw out a situation, and if we're all here, you can almost predict what we're going to say, but never quite how we're going to say it. You just know what our angle is going to be.
Right.
And I think that's fun to play along with. Like my boyfriend Ken is a huge fan. He listens every single morning, and he said it's the way that we will listen and then take a spin on it that is unique. And I think that our listeners are in on that. They are. And they mean to be here. Because
it's like you can always,
I love
you're
that.
always going to enjoy humor when you're with your friends.
Yeah.
And family. And that's, it's overstated sometimes, but it does feel like a family. Like it's our family. It's our radio family.
They're so good to us.
Yeah, what I like, and I'm not every day involved, I love just being. The other day I'm at Safeway, and a gal says, "Hi, Ken," and I spin around and I kind of studied her face, and she could tell I was studying her face, and she goes, "No, don't worry, you don't know me." But they always start out, "I just want to tell you and you guys, Dave, Ken, and Molly, how much I've listened, how much you've meant to me," and it's amazing how many of those.
It's so nice.
People just come out of the woodwork. I think I talked about going to the lab one day, and I just loved my lab gal. She got really mad at the situation. She was mad. And she goes like, yes, I know who you are and I know what happened.
And I'm not happy about it.
Fiercely loyal.
Yeah.
We got a lot of those people out there.
I do. Yeah, I do feel like that. This is that kind of a community.
Yes.
They're loyal. They love you. You feel like, family. And you've kind of opened that door now too, like you said, with the text line. And people feel like they can communicate with you on a daily basis now.
Part of the show.
It's astounding how misread that was
Yes.
and how unanticipated that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not by us. I mean, I was surprised. I was surprised at the outpouring. Honestly, I was. I mean, I figured there'd be a couple of days of people being pissed or whatever, and then they'd just move on. Well, that was not the case. But like, and maybe that's why it was missed, because even we didn't understand what was about to happen. But it is to not have people in the know be appreciative of that. It's sort of astounding. It was like, well, what did you think was going to happen? I don't. But I appreciate it, and I love this situation. We have fun, different in the situation. It's different, and it's nice when Ken comes in, but there's a freedom here that we never had before, that we were afraid of at first, but now we embrace it, and it's a blast.
Yeah, it
so
is fun.
You can just roll with it.
And you have a lot of, and you were a part of this whole connection getting us
Yeah.
into here. I remember talking to you in the early days.
Oh, we wanted you bad.
Yeah, it was
Like, get him in here.
but
Crazy.
the people that we run into in the halls, and the people that make decisions for when they're involved and truly care about us, that's a touching thing.
I'm going to say that about here because I'm going on 17 years now.
Oh my
with
gosh.
this, which is crazy.
Yes.
But this is family here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can say that sometimes and you're like, oh yeah, we're like family. This is family. And I feel like through everything over the years, my ups and downs, they've been right there with me, and they're going to support you, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure that you've got what you need and that you are doing the best that you can do in your situation, wherever it might be. And so I knew when they were going to bring you guys in that they were going to take great care of you, and you were going to feel loved. And now you're part of the family.
Well, the greatest gift
It
they
does
gave
feel
us
like
was
that.
the wizard Quinn, who
Yeah.
is behind the scenes here. But
He
truly,
is.
we could never have done this, never. And he's gotten us through. We're sort of stumbling to the place where we can do more and more without his help, direct help. But that was the greatest gift, because I think they anticipated, like, you're going to need this person, and having a young person infuse that and just be able to take care of us every day has been huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah,
and very generous.
Quinn's a
of-
rock. He's a rock.
He's our
kinda
star.
He's kind of gotten this whole, thing rolling, right? So he's been helping out here too. So I couldn't get on the air without him because I
Yeah.
don't know how to do
I
anything
can't
else.
either. Believe me, I can't either. Dave and I barely together can, but staying on the air is the problem. But now the listeners have done what they did with us, which is what they did with me when I first came. They did Breakfast Boys. Now here's this girl, and what's this going to be about? Well, they gave me a chance. Then they brought me in. Instantly, they loved Quinn.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't
Right.
even like a question. They just instantly loved him. So that was cool too. So.
You're doing all right,
Part of
Kay.
the
game.
You're
Yeah.
doing all right. We'll
Quinifred.
we're going to clap for you,
Quizzard.
the Quizzard. You guys, thank you so much.
Oh, this was
For
great.
being a part of that. I love this. And
Love
this is new for me
this.
too, but it also takes me back to my radio days, which I love, and I love to talk, and I love to talk to people, and I love to talk to people I love. So this has been amazing, and I thank each one of you for being there for me along every step of my way in this journey. Through this career. Thank you for getting my foot in the door. Diana, too, because I worked in promotions. We broke down in a car together. I did radio remotes with you guys.
Here's what I'm so happy for you, because I want your viewers to get to know you how we know you. And the only way to do that is to have this platform. You can't do that doing the weather.
It's true.
You're not allowed to. And,
Yes.
and you deserve to be known that way. And I know that when people are just watching, they can see a pretty face and they see this person and they assume how hard your shell must be or whatever. They don't know how sweet and kind you are. And they get to know that. And also, I think it makes them kinder. I think they think twice before they say something crappy from behind their computer desk, because you don't need that in your life. And now they'll get to know how wonderful you are. So that's my hope for you with all of this.
Yeah, thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much. And did you record that pretty face thing? Record that.
It's on loop already. It's running through the
Okay,
whole.
so it's going through. Just send it out to everybody. No, thank you. That means a lot to me. And honestly, I will say, viewer-wise, I feel like I've been really lucky. But you always get that 5% where they either don't want to get to know you, or you know what I figured out is either you look like somebody they didn't like, or somebody that hurt them somewhere in their life, or you sound like it, or sometimes people just don't like you, and you can't do anything about it. So I've kind of learned the art of that over just the last year. And God, I'm old, so I'm like, it took a long time to get there. But I love this opportunity to be able to talk, and then I feel like I can have a conversation, with people, and talk about the things we all want to talk about, because I do sit in a little bit of a box, and that's fine too, because I love that. So it's structure, and I have somebody yelling in my ear, which I can't believe Quinn's not like in my ear going,
Wrap it up.
get out, wrap it up.
He's like, I have 85 other things on my list today. And you guys.
And they just keep talking. Did you not know what you were getting into?
That's the beauty of it, though. Yeah.
It is. So, okay. Dave Sposito, Molly Allen, you can get them on Nonstop Local right there on the app. Download the app. Ken comes in to visit. Otherwise, he's kicking back with his beautiful wife, Trish, and we love that for you.
Well, just come in and report my little events and adventures. Love it.
Awesome. All right, you guys. I'll let you go. I'm going to let you get out of here for today and get to the casino, hopefully.
Well, Molly goes to the casino all the time.
Oh my God! They just put a stool in, and I watched them. They were engraving it, and they said, "How do you spell Sposito now?" And I gave them the right spelling, and I said, "He'll probably be here soon, but I don't know."
But wait, it's right next to yours.
Mine's out in the RV park. I have a brick out in the RV park. This is different.
All right, we could do this forever. Go make the rest of your days the best of your days. Dave, Ken, and Molly, I love you so much.
We
Thank
love you.
Yes, nothing but great
you.
things.